Good morning and welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us this morning. If you're watching us live on Facebook, thank you for that. Of course, we like to remind folks that Facebook does keep these videos live and archived for indefinitely, so you can go check them out there. Or if you're watching or listening on our website, we do upload these shows to www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast. You can check it out there. Also want to remind folks we do have a free page with all the coronavirus information. It's been rolling out lately. www.livingstonparishnews.com/coronavirus. It's going to be a short show today. The coronavirus information starting to come out a little bit slower. As I've mentioned to folks, we are going to probably be hitting a point here, maybe in the next couple of days, where we're going to hit, I guess you can call it the Rona rewind is what we're going to call it. And it's going to be a lot of these things that happened while the coronavirus was kind of dominating headlines. Want to bring these things back to light because, of course, we're going to be trying to move back to sort of a bit of normality, a bit of a regular schedule. So be on the lookout for that. If we continue to have slow days like this, we're going to start getting back to some of the business that occurred after or during, I guess you should say, the COVID-19 outbreak. So please keep an eye on that. Traffic, kind of like the coronavirus, is starting to return to normal. You're looking at your normal delays, 4H Club Road, River Road, N190, the on-ramps getting onto I-12, as well as 64 heading into Central. Some minor delays on 190 near Walker. Not entirely, it could be a wreck there. The delays seem pretty light, though. However, I was reminded yesterday that just because it appears that traffic looks okay on I-12 doesn't necessarily mean that there's not any traffic at all. People are starting to stack back up heading into Baton Rouge, but as of right now, traffic is at least flowing. It is not as a standstill if you're getting up on the interstate to head into BR for work. It's currently 68 degrees. 88 degrees is your high. 67 your overnight low. Going to be a mix of clouds and sun today, so it's going to be a pretty day. Just jumping into these mitigation efforts real quick. Remember, because they will be important going into phase 1, 2, 3, you got to keep taking care of yourself. Wash your hands for 20 seconds or more with soap and water. Disinfect common surfaces at home and at your office. Wear a mask in public if at all possible. Control your cough and your sneezing with your elbow or a tissue. Don't touch your face. 6 feet or more between yourself and others in public, 10 or less to a gathering, preferably less. Stay home to work if at all possible, and stay home if you're sick, and utilize telehealth to get in touch with your doctor. After closing the waterways going into the weekend, Livingston Parish Department of Homeland Security has reopened them. They were open as of 9 a.m. yesterday. The water had dropped significantly. It had been a while since we had a lot of rain like that, so it flowed. And with favorable conditions in Lake Maurepas, the water flowed out pretty quick. Want to remind folks to get a game plan. We are in the middle of, in the middle of getting prepared for hurricane season, which begins June 1st. Already had some disturbances in the Atlantic, so it's going to be interesting to see what kind of season we have. They're predicting 3 to 4 named storms this year. With your coronavirus statistics, you're looking at 34,709 cases, 26,249 have recovered, 270,000 tests. 1,031 individuals have been hospitalized or are currently in the hospital on 118 ventilators, so that's a slight uptick. 2,440 deaths. In Livingston Parish, 350 cases, 25 deaths on 4,500 tests. Yesterday, it was announced that the Louisiana Department of Health had adjusted their dashboard. If you're wondering where that is, it's at ldh.la.gov/coronavirus. You can go there to look at some of the independent statistics. But some of the things they did update, especially, there was 2 parts to it. One was because Livingston Parish had reached 25 total deaths, 48 days after reporting its first death. That means that we now get racial demographic breakdown of our deaths. And as it stands, 19 of 25 were Caucasian, or who represent 90% of the parish. Caucasians do. 6 of 25 were African American, who are 6% of the parish population. The other update to statistics is they're now talking about nursing homes. This was a big story yesterday, that they were releasing individual information regarding nursing homes, and 2 homes in Livingston Parish were reporting COVID-19 cases and deaths. Both Golden Age and Harvest Manor reported 151 total residents. In Golden Age, you were looking at 24 COVID-19 cases and 4 deaths, whereas in Harvest Manor, who also again had 151 residents, 24 cases as well, but this time 11 deaths. So the Department of Health is going to be reporting not just cases among those who are within the nursing home or retirement home, but also those who are staff there. So anybody who is staff or resident who has COVID-19 will be reported. Of course, deaths will also be reported as well. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that as it moves forward, but the Department of Health is now reporting those numbers. That's about all we have for the coronavirus today. The governor, of course, yesterday mostly talked about getting into phase 1, wanted to remind folks of the mitigation efforts, was hoping that people were trying to get back to work, back to business here in phase 1, wanted to remind folks of that there are some places that will remain closed for the time being per his proclamation. He did have a teleconference with the White House Federal Task Force yesterday afternoon, which is why the press conference was so short. Not much to talk about outside of that, really. He just wanted to remind people as well. Also, you can always call 211 if you need information on the coronavirus, or you can check our website for phone numbers to call in terms of a crisis or any of those sort of issues. Getting into the legislature, which has begun meeting starting last Monday. Trying to get through this session, trying to figure out a budget. It looks like a couple of things that are going on right now. One is a competition with the governor trying to figure out where the cuts are going to come from. It's going to be a back and forth between the legislature and the governor. The governor presented a relatively strong budget in terms of belief that certain revenues were going to be there and being able to take care of certain federal revenues. The legislature was not as confident. They removed about $290 million. This is in the federal government. They removed about $290 million from that initial budget in the Appropriations Committee, basically based around not being as confident in the revenue numbers and being able to acquire federal funding. So we'll see where that back and forth goes. Of course, they have to have a budget by June 4th, or else they'll have to call a special session because without a budget, for June 30th / July 1st, the state government will shut down until a budget is released or agreed upon and signed by the governor. So we'll see what happens over the coming days, but already a little bit of back and forth between the legislature and the governor. Also, SB 418, which happens to be by Mr. Kirk Talbot, and is based in and around the car insurance rates. This is sort of an omnibus bill, which means that there's a lot of different parts to it, but it's addressing things like jury size, jury threshold, and the number of years that you have to file a claim. So right now, of course, you're looking at my dog, Bo. Stop. Sorry about that. Again, interesting stuff you run into working from home. Dog nuzzling inside a wrapper. At any rate, what you're looking at in SB 418 is trying to reduce the amount that could be used to call for a jury trial. Right now, it's $50,000 is the minimum claim that would have to be filed for you to be able to get to a jury trial. So a lot of insurance companies end up settling out for less, trying to stay away from that. So you're trying to get that lower so you can get in front of your peers and plead your case if necessary. Of course, they're also trying to reduce the amount of time you have, the amount of time a person has to file a claim within the certain amount of time of the accident. The last thing you want, is for 2 years later you get whacked with a lawsuit for an accident you might not even remember. So there's a lot of changes coming. It's Senate Bill, or SB 418 in the Louisiana Senate. It has now passed the Senate and will move. It is now passed committee and will move to the full floor of the Senate for a vote. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. coming forward. There is some opposition to it that says, it either won't help or it won't go all the way through. Time's going to tell how this is going to go, but I know there are a lot of people out there that are rooting for it, that are worried about their car insurance rates. So keep an eye on that. Again, that's SB 418. Yesterday, a little bit of drama in Livingston Parish. At around 6:30 a.m., the state police tried to effect a routine traffic stop, and the individual and the passenger decided that they were not interested and fled the scene in their vehicle. They were eventually got off at South Satsuma Road and ran into a bridge that was out, so they ditched their car and tried to run. The driver was captured. His or her name, we're not real sure, has not been released yet, but the passenger is still at large, and state police are asking for any information that you can provide. Please call Crime Stoppers. Getting back into these mitigation efforts real quick. Told you it was going to be a short show today. Wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds or more. Disinfect common surfaces at home and at your office. Wear a mask if at all possible in public. Control your cough with an elbow or a tissue. Don't touch your face if at all possible. 6 feet or more between yourself and others. 10 or less to a gathering, preferably less. Stay home to work if at all possible. And stay home if you are sick, and utilize telehealth to get in touch with your doctor. Also want to remind folks, yesterday we did have an announcement regarding school food programs. A lot of people, if you were eligible for free lunch from the school or a reduced price lunch, became eligible for reimbursement because you had to feed those kids at home from the federal government. That if you have a child in the Livingston Parish school system, you need to call your school or the central office. There is a chance, because of the flood, we had been going through free lunches here in Livingston Parish for several years. You might be eligible for reimbursement. Please want to remind folks, please call the central office or call your school about those programs. If you have a child in the school system at all, it's worth a call to see if you are in fact eligible. Want to talk about the traffic real quick, starting to return back to normal. So minor delays at 4-H Club Road, River Road, and 190. Minor delays at 190 and Range Avenue as well. Some minor delays on 190 near Walker. Not entirely sure if that's an accident or not. Minor delays on 64 heading into Central. Traffic is flowing on I-12. However, it's starting to get about back to normal as people sort of flow into Baton Rouge. Not quite as bad as it normally gets, but it is starting to ramp back up. It's currently 68 degrees. 88 degrees is your high. 67 your overnight low. It's going to be sunny today, but we are looking at thunderstorms tomorrow. One last time with the coronavirus statistics: 34,709 cases, 26,249 recovered on 270,000 tests. 1,031 hospitalized currently. 118 are on ventilators with 2,440 deaths. In Livingston Parish, 350 cases, 25 deaths, and 4,500 tests. One last time, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us this morning for the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. Please remember we're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We are once a week in print on Thursdays at $7 a month to get that in your mailbox. We are also online, www.livingstonparishnews.com. We have the coronavirus page, which is free. We also have a podcast page where we put these shows. Both of those pages, again, are free, so you can go check them out at your leisure. Want to remind folks, if we continue to have some slow updates on the coronavirus combined with the legislature, we are going to start rolling back, or what we want to call the Rona Rewind, and get back to some of these stories that were kind of buried during the fast-paced coronavirus era, and we want to bring them back and talk about them as especially as some of these governments move back sort of to some semblance of regular operation. So we hope you have a great day. It is supposed to be a beautiful day, and we will see you tomorrow morning.